You ready? Quiet on the set, please. It's taken almost 10. All right, take 3. Let's get this right. 1, 2, 3. I gotta figure out. Not in my face. My chin's lower. No. Restoration project. Pop! On my boat restoration project. Pop! Bring it up. Right there.
Okay.
How's that? What's the problem? What's the problem? Phase 1 on my boat restoration project. Pop! I feel so angry. It's taken more than 10 years, but I finally reached the end of phase 1 on my boat restoration project. What is the problem of my boat restoration project? Pop. Right? Yes. On my boat restoration project.
All right, you gotta be happier.
It's hard to be happy
I
when
know.
people are not helping me.
I know.
It's a very simple thing, and people will not do what they're supposed to do.
Now we're recording.
Okay, here we go. You guys ready?
Look at the arrows of where to turn it.
I know how to turn it. I know
All right, here we go. Ready? All right, here we go. This is for all the money. Ready? All right, it's quiet on the set. Here we go. It's taken 10 years, and I finally reached the end of phase 1 of my boat restoration project.
Yay!
Hi, I'm Joe, and welcome to Motor City Boat Werks. Let's get to work. This episode, I think I want to do something a little bit different. I don't have a lot of projects to talk about in this episode, but I do want to talk about where I am working on the Albin 27 family cruiser that's behind me. What I want to do in this episode is kind of take a moment to step back and have a bird's eye view of my boat building project. I'm going to be talking about what it costs to get to this point in my boat build. I'm going to talk about time and money and effort, and really, what is the price of working on a boat long-term over 10 years? It's going to take a little bit of time. We're going to get down into the details. I hope you stick with me. If you've been watching my channel, you'll often hear me refer to the 3 phases of my boat building project. I recently completed phase 1. On a wooden boat, this would probably be right about the time you finished the hull and you flipped it over and maybe began putting the interior into the boat. Phase 1 is all the dirty work rebuilding my trawler. It's all the fabrication and fiberglassing, all the grinding and sanding, all of the dirty things that make up building a boat. For me, the end of phase 1 was the completion of all of the fabrication. All of the bulkheads are in place and everything's kind of fitted out, including the furniture waiting final assembly, everything to be put back inside the boat. Phase 2 involves installing the systems on my pocket trawler. This will be things like new plumbing, new electrical, new navigational system, a stern thruster, a new inline diesel engine, all of the electronics and plumbing that go into the boat that'll make it suitable for long-term cruising. Phase 3 is the finishing on this trawler build. It's going to include all of the teak trim that goes on the interior, all of the little details that'll just kind of make it look polished, and it'll include sea trials and kind of testing out all the equipment to make sure all the systems and the engine, well, everything works the way that it's supposed to. If you've been watching my channel, you know that one of the things I like to do is to count things.
36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 42, 43, 44, 48.
I think it's a great way to really kind of keep track of what you're doing in your boat restoration or boat building project. I have been keeping the receipts and measuring all of the expenses for the Albin 27 from the moment that I bought the boat all the way up until today. In addition to keeping track of how much I'm spending on it, I've also been keeping track of my time working on it, my injuries, the number of steps it takes to go up and down the stairs, all sorts of things related to the boat. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. The first place to start is to ask, how long does it take to build a boat? You would think it would be a simple question. How long does it take to build or restore a 30-foot boat from a bare hull? But the reality is, is that I found it very difficult to get a good answer to this question. A lot of the salty dogs on the boat building forums and on the Facebook boat building groups, they dismiss my question as kind of being a silly one. They like to respond with lots of clever little quips like, how long is a piece of string? Or how long do you want to take working on it? Trust me, when someone says this sort of thing, it means they haven't actually ever built a boat or restored one. They don't actually know what they're talking about. If you've ever restored a classic car or an antique motorcycle or even remodeled a home, you know that it takes a certain amount of time to do certain projects. And from that information and knowledge, you can extrapolate out how long does it take to do one of these major restoration projects. I made inquiries with Damien McGlone in Ireland about how long it's taken him to build his boats. And from my conversations with Rick Laporte building his 37-foot trawler, turns out that best guess from the folks who've actually done this sort of thing before, it takes about 5,000 to 6,000 man-hours to finish a boat from about 22 to 30 feet long. It takes about 8,000 to 10,000 man-hours to finish a 30 to 40-foot boat. That includes building the hull, the interior, and the complete outfitting. Of course, this is all dependent on your level of finish and the complexity of the systems, but for the type of boat that I'm doing, I think it holds true. Now, I bought the boat in August 2014, and I started working on it almost right away. I've been working on it consistently with the exception of a couple of breaks that were due to me taking a job overseas. I want the project to hopefully be done sometime by 2026. Most of the work on the boat was done on the weekends and on my days off from my day job. That's always in the back of your mind. You know you need to work on it. You know you want to work on it, but there's other things that have to be done. Life kind of goes on. I moved and relocated my family twice, 2 different states. I moved overseas and back again, went through the COVID-19 pandemic, restored 3 smaller sailboats, and remodeled 2 different homes. All this was going on while I was working on my pocket trawler. If you watch my channel, you already know Motor City Boat Werks has no sponsors. I get no compensation from any of the products or the companies that I talk about on my YouTube channel. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Spread the word about Motor City Boat Werks. To keep track of my hours inside the shop, I went ahead and I purchased a time clock. It's a punch clock like you might have inside a factory. I punch it every day when I come into the boat works. If I'm working on the boat doing projects, I punch one time card. If I'm working on the YouTube channel, I punch another time card. I try to keep the 2 hours separate. Now, I haven't started breaking out the hours for the Skipper 20 or any of my other boat projects that I have going on. As I get further along, I will be able to break out the Skipper 20 and we'll know exactly how many hours that I've been working on that particular boat. Here you can see a chart showing the hours, how much time I've spent actually working on the Albin 27. When I had a full-time job, it was about 400 or 500 hours a year put into the boat. When I retired, you can see starting in 2023, the hours began to go up. This year, in 2024, we're on track to approach about 700 hours working on the Albin 27. It's important to note the hours that I spend making the YouTube videos and running my YouTube channel. It's a significant drain on my overall time that I have to be working on my boats. Here's a simple breakdown for 2023, and you can see the YouTube hours competing with the Albin 27 restoration. Some months I don't get as much done as I would like, and it's because I'm traveling or I have other family obligations. Now, I got to be honest with you. If you're like me, you're probably thinking, man, those hours do not look like you're spending a lot of time working on the boat. And I got to agree with you. I'm working as fast as I can. I'm only one guy. You know, for 25, 30 years, I devoted my life to my day job, and I spent 60 to 80 hours a week working nonstop at the expense of my family and my health and, frankly, my sanity. When I retired, I made the decision that I wanted to work on the boat, but I wanted to enjoy myself. I decided my goal was to try and work 100 hours a month on the boat. 100 hours is 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, with an extra 5 hours on the weekend. At my age, with my obligations, I think this is a reasonable goal for me. You can see though that I've fallen short of that goal. So far, no matter how hard I try, I just can't break the 100-hour mark. It may be wishful thinking, but I'm hoping that my hours are going to continue to go up and things will move much faster as I begin to install the systems in the boat and kind of put everything back together. It's good to have goals. I want to get it done by 2026, but the reality may be that I just can't work fast enough. What does it cost to get to this point in a boat build? I purchased the Albin 27 in August 2014 for $13,000. It's a 1986 Albin 27 family cruiser. The boat was a weekend runner. It came with a triple axle trailer. It was documented with the U.S. Coast Guard. The purchase price of the boat included the previous owner delivering it to me almost 1,000 miles. In a separate episode, I'm going to talk about how and why I chose the Albin 27 as my boat restoration project. Let's talk about my receipts and what it's actually cost so far. I've been collecting all of the receipts for all of the major purchases for the boat, and I've put it in a spreadsheet, broke it down into categories so I can kind of get an idea of what I spent. Over the last 10 years, as I've completed phase one, I've spent almost $11,000 on my boat restoration. What do you get for that price? Well, this includes about $3,000 in composite materials. This is all of the plastics and Cusa board, all of those things that I used for fabrication of bulkheads, furniture, and the hardtop on the pocket trawler. I spent just over $1,500 on fiberglass and epoxy, but I'll be honest with you, I think that number might be a little bit higher. The new stainless steel handrails for the Albin 27, well, they were almost $1,000. Replacement parts for all the various portholes on the boat were about $1,500. The engine room soundproofing and all of the improvements that I made, well, that was about $800. The initial paint for the boat was around $600, but I think we have a couple $100 more to go. All the items for the head and the galley, this includes the solid surface countertops that are going to be put in there, that was about $600. Storage for the boat over the 10 years, which includes the time period where I was working overseas and all of the long-term shrink wrapping, well, that was $1,000. And surprisingly, one of the largest expenses was almost $1,300 in metal and stainless steel fasteners, all of the bolts that were used to reattach everything to the hull of the boat. Now you might be thinking to yourself, wow, $11,000 is really not that bad when you think about 10 years of working on a boat. We are burning money! But I want to point out that there's another expense, and that's consumables. I've talked about it on my channel before. Consumables are all of the items that you use daily as you go about doing your projects. Paint brushes and solvents for cleanup, plastic bags, masking tape, new saw blades, new grinder discs, sandpaper, all the little things that you use up on a daily basis, well, they cost money. If I was to add up my consumables over the last 10 years, I'm going to say that it's probably around $1,000 a year. And that would be for about 7 years when I was really working intensely on the boat. Now, consumables are used for a variety of other projects, household projects, other boats that I'm restoring. But the point of tracking these items is that it's an expense that you need to plan for when you're doing a boat long term. So if you're like me, you've just realized that at this stage of my boat building project, I've spent about $31,000 just to get to phase one. And you're probably wondering, how much more is it gonna take to get this boat complete? Well, my budget tells me that I have another $33,000 to go. This will be for purchasing all of the components and the new engine that's going to go inside my pocket trawler. And if you add in another 5, say 10% of overage costs, you always got to have extra overage. Well, that's going to bring the total to about $71,000. I know, it hurts. Oh, that hurts like a kick in the balls. Time and money is not the only cost when you're building your boat. There's the toll that it takes on your body. My experience working on boats has taught me to keep a personal injury log. It's like an accident book where I keep track of my injuries. It's an interesting statistic to count. And what I can tell you is that I've injured myself about 350 times working on the Albin 27. That's about once a week, 50 weeks for the 7 years I was actively working on the boat. And that doesn't include one of the most serious injuries you can sustain, RSIs, repetitive sports injuries. These are things like golfer and tennis elbow, runner's knees, injuries to your hips or your ankles from constant movement, being up and down, or crawling around in tiny spaces. Who are you kidding? I haven't run anywhere since the Marine Corps. As I come to the end of phase 1, I can tell you that I now have serious problems with my knees. I've been tracking the number of times that I go up and down the rolling ladder into the boat. I just started in February. The counter tells me that I've been up and down the stairs more than 1,500 times. That's more than 13,000 steps in about 18 months. There are days that I need to work on the boat. I want to work on the boat, but I just don't have any motivation anymore. And then there's the frustration. I wish I could tell you I was one of those guys who kind of zenned his way through working on his boat. You know, the kind that are always eternally happy. They never have a bad thing to say. It's just lollipops and kittens. But that's not me. And that's not real boat building. Some days it's really, really frustrating. Things don't go your way. And man, I just lose it. My kids have suggested I need to have a rage jar. A jar that I put $1 in every time I have a meltdown. Some days there is no jar big enough for my rage. How do you quantify 10 years of working on a boat? You use the bucket of rage. The moments of anger and frustration. The moments you see red when you just can't stand what's going on. And the moments of depression when things aren't going to plan. 1,200 moments in 10 years. All right, that's enough of that. It's time to get back to work. As I move forward on the Albin 27 into phase 2, I hope you stick with me. I have a lot of really interesting projects that are going to be coming up. I'll be covering them as they come to completion, so it may take a while for the episodes to come out, but I promise you it'll be worth it in the end. I hope you enjoyed this recap as much as I did. I want to thank you for stopping by. We'll see you next time. Stay motivated.